That's great, Dan. Thank you so much for letting me know, Amal, and thank you so much for bearing us, everyone. So,
Sure.
let's proceed on this, and it's really nice that we can even use these as an insight for the whole process when working remotely and even interviewing remotely, right? So that's one of the topics that we'll be covering today. So, brief summary on what you can expect from this call today, from this webinar today. So, first section will cover how to enter the job market as a beginner. So, some ideas, some insights, some strategies that can help you get considered. We will also talk in a second session about key differences in international labor markets, things that you should definitely consider when seeking for a work abroad, especially remotely. And by the end, we will talk about some useful insights for you to securing these jobs with global companies, especially, right? So let's go to the first section, entering the job market as a beginner. So every time someone comes to me asking for help to either search for a new job, either to change jobs or their first job ever, there is a rule that I always tell people that is starting with yourself. So one of the main things about selective processes, about applying for jobs and finding what is right for you, is knowing yourself and understanding what you are aiming for. So, first thing first, before starting sending CVs or before starting tailoring your LinkedIn or looking for a job, set some time aside, grab a pen. I usually recommend doing it by hand because it's a different process of learning, but honestly, use whatever is easier for you and you what you feel more comfortable with, either notepads, but you start with a self-assessment and make yourself questions about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what have you achieved in the past 2, 3, 5 years that are relevant and you like to share with others that makes you proud? What have you learned in this process? So making mistakes is part of the journey and it's part of the growth process, right? So the most important thing in this is already an insight that usually happens in interviews is not exactly what happened to you, but what you made from this, right? So if it was a mistake or something didn't turn out as you wanted, what you did do about it. So all of these speaks a lot about your skill sets, about how you face challenge, about your proactivity. So there is a whole story that is told behind these self-assessments and knowing yourself, right? So if you want to sell yourself for other person, because to be totally honest, an interview process, it's like this. It's you selling yourself as a good candidate, a good professional to sit in that position. And you can only do that when you deeply know what you are talking about and you deeply know yourself, right? You wouldn't know how many people, when I asked them the first time, what are your strengths, stutter to tell me about it, which shows that they have never really given a thought about it. So it starts from there. In the second point is align dreams. So when we go to the market, we are so excited to start working with something, right? I remember when I graduated, I couldn't wait for starting working on a formal company, a big company, and maybe even set an international job. But the truth is, in the beginning, I wasn't sure about which career path I wanted to pursue. And when this happens, two things can happen. Either you can be too long in an opportunity that actually you don't identify with, or you can say no to opportunities that could drive you the one that you are aiming for, right? So think about your goals. And of course, you don't need to set a goal that you want to have in 10 years. This is a lot of a long period of time to think about. But do think like which kind of areas you like to work with, what do you like to do, what do you think could help you get there if this is not the first job you land, right? And which careers and opportunities work with that. And instead of working with titles, try working more with skill sets that it demands, especially in the current job market. Titles change a lot, and honestly, the responsibilities can change from one company to the other. So they can have the same title as manager, meaning one thing in one company, another thing in the other, right? So instead, try to explore this part, and then you would open up more on the possibilities for yourself as well. Sometimes it's not even in the formal market, right? In the formal labor market in a company. It can be with arts, it can be with a startup, let's say in a different sector than you ever imagined. So I started my career working for a consultant as an executive project assistant. And at the time, it wasn't my main goal, but at the time, was it wasn't full time, so it gave me time to study and to pursue what I really wanted. But it also provided me with learnings from him, and also to earn my money. And 1 year after, I was placing a job with the company that I wanted, right? And it definitely helped on that. So don't underestimate the power of knowing what you are aiming for and what could be connected with that. And then this brings us to the third point, which is if you, I mean, I'm assuming I'm speaking with people from many different backgrounds in here. And talking, if you haven't had the opportunity to have a first formal job, for example, don't underestimate your past projects, your freelance work, voluntary work, or anything related. I've heard many times when I was supporting people to land their first jobs or a different job saying, but I have never done anything, I don't know what to add. And as I started exploring what these people did, this person did in their college years or as voluntary activities, I could identify so many projects or initiatives that this person led and that could be shared with others, right? So in these self-assessments, add a section in there for you to revisit the project you participated, what was your impact in this project, what of valuable contribution did you bring to it, why it was important, because it's not only mentioning a product, but understanding how it connects with your skill sets or showing those skills, right? So show it off. If I have to say something, don't be afraid to share this with people. People will only know about what you have done if you tell them about this. And this is what is done to the product through the process, interview process, especially. So try to think on these activities and pick those that you consider more relevant for what you like to show, what you like to share, right? Here it's if you already have an idea of which kind of sector or which kind of area you like to work in, then it's good to align all of these within that area, that sector, right? And how you can do that? You can usually do that by seeing similar positions that you like to work on or companies and see what are the skill sets that they usually ask for. And then do some thinking on thinking how your skill set and your background could fit that and how you could share that with others, right? And it also brings us then to our second section, which would be about building a strong online presence. And one thing I would like to share with you as a recruiter, and more specifically, I act on a specialty of the recruitment that is sourcing. So I'm a specialist at attracting people for roles that we are hiring for, finding the right people, right? And inviting them to the process. So I have seen many profiles with open to work in LinkedIn, which means they are seeking opportunities actively, but with a LinkedIn profile that didn't tell me much. And it was very generic and didn't have further information. So if this person is actively looking, but they don't say what they do or what are their strengths or their achievements or their responsibilities, is really, really hard for me to approach that person and invite them for a role that I have, even if they have the right skills, because I don't know, right? So think about these as the first point of contact between you and your future hire. How are you creating and crafting that? So we usually talk about the LinkedIn profile because LinkedIn is usually worldwide, and especially for global companies, a secret, it's not a secret actually, but a tip here is as recruiters, especially again, global and big companies, we do have a platform from LinkedIn that gives us more access to more profiles in specific places where we are looking to hire for, right? So I have already hired for India, for Belgium, Brazil, for US, for Hong Kong, for Europe overall, right? So in your LinkedIn, there are many sections that helps you stand out for these searches and for those that you want. So update it with your certifications, courses, and achievements. And here, be very thoughtful about what is more relevant, because of course, sometimes we do have many things we are proud of, many things we have done, and we want to show off. But you need to think on what is connected to your goal. Remember, we talked before, and not to just add, like, not to pollute your LinkedIn profile, but making it objective as well and relevant for what you are looking for. So be mindful about that. One other thing is using keywords, identify what are the main keywords in your industry, in the markets that you want to enter in your area. If you are a developer, for example, you might want to add the languages like Java, C Sharp, database that you use, MySQL. So your main knowledge here, right? Because when we are searching for the right professional, we use it a lot as well to identify the right ones. Use your about to write a resume about what you are looking for in your main achievements. So one tip I give in here, although it's interesting talking about your soft skills, to add it in there, but if possible, also add something there about your major achievements so far, right? If you have helped to build things, to review something, to elaborate projects or on any specific area, this is the place where you can add. I always recommend not making it bigger than 4 lines, 5 lines, right? 3 would be ideal actually. But if you are doing 4 or 5, then divide into a block of texts. Then this all goes within like how we read the profiles, how we calls attention, and you want to ensure that this small piece calls attention for what you are looking for. In your title, add the keywords for what you are aiming for as well. In each one of your experiences, if you have formal experience, adding there what were your responsibilities there and what were your biggest impact, or if you were specialized in one specific area, add which area it was. So in software development, for example, there are many nuances, right? There are many areas that you can be an expert on. So it can be database, data security, it can be a software engineer for backend, front end. So if you want to be approached for the right one, you got to make it clear. And these in sales as well, for example, there's pre-sales, post-sale, customer support. So be mindful about that. And then use LinkedIn for networking. So connect with the right people in desired companies. You can sometimes send a note and connect, not asking for a job and neither just sending your CV. This is not a good practice, right? But connect saying, you notice that person is from that company and you are very interested, you love to be connected maybe for future opportunities or if you could have any insights, right? So you are creating a connection and be sure that if you have a relevant profile, definitely this person will at least take a look into your profile and will keep an eye if could meet any of their roles, right? And in here, it doesn't need to be only recruiters. It could also be managers or leads in the areas that you are interested at. Be always genuine and interested. This is one of the main rules of networking. And why this is important? Because one fact, and there are many sources bringing different numbers, but what I've been seeing is that referrals increase your hiring chances. So a referral is 50 times more likely to be higher than someone who applied directly. Does it mean that if I apply directly, I will never be hired? No, I'm not saying that. We hire many people that apply directly. What I'm saying, yeah, is it does increase your chances, especially if it's in a market that you might not have so many connections, right? So creating that network and maybe being referred or maybe asking a friend if you know them in some company to refer you can increase your possibilities. Me myself, I had this history because when in the previous company I worked before Wise, um, what happened, I had connected with one of the sources in there in a webinar that he gave. And a few months later, when I decided to search for a new job, I applied directly, but I also contacted him because I saw that he was involved in the process. And I said, look, I see that you are hiring. How can I increase my opportunities to talk? I love to share more about myself, right? And he then shared my profile with the lead. And then we spoke, I passed through the select process and I was hired, right? And he told me later that one of the reasons why he accepted my invitation and my message was because he remembered me from the webinar where we connected. You see? So one thing to keep in mind is networking, they won't always be in short term in terms of next month or next week, but it's definitely important to build your presence and to return in some way, right? And whenever it's possible, identify and join international job fairs and expat groups. So spread your wings and explore. So now you can explore through Google. So searching there, what are international job fairs in your current country, in your current city, or where you are placed, or other events related to the area that you like to join that you can go to network with people in person. So when you talk about networking, it's not only online, but also on offline in person, right? And when you join that, don't just be there, but be active. So you can be noticed as well when you are interacting with others, people posts, and especially if you are helping them as well, because sometimes they have some doubts that you can help somehow, or you can direct this person somewhere, I don't know, or just giving encouragement. So the more active you are, the more noticed you'll be as well, and also increase your chance of being noticed. So in this webinar, for example, he reminded me because I was active in the webinar, making comments, asking questions, and interacting, right? So see how it works for you and put yourself out there. And once you have built that network, don't also forget to have a tailored CV to explore these opportunities. And you might ask me, but I already have a LinkedIn profile. Why I need that CV? Many companies still ask for the CV, as it usually has a different setting on how it's organized and the types of information that you are providing. And it's easier to share with hiring managers, right? So CVs, they should be one page. Ideally, it should be one page, but it can go up to 2 pages, right? So what you need to keep in mind in here, you don't want to add all that you have done in life. You want to add the highlights of your journey and what is relevant for what you are aiming for, what you are looking for, right? So currently, and here's another tip, you can use different tools to help you craft a CV. Since their own Microsoft Word to Canvas, to ChatGPT, to how to write it and how to place the sections. One thing I always tell here is never add your address, only your email address and your phone number. So this is a value tip I always share. This is for security as well. But in any way, when tailoring it, try to think on the industry or the role that you are pursuing. Sometimes you might have to have two CVs with different focuses if you are open to more than one area or one industry, right? This helps to show how interested you are and focused on details as well, and be ready to apply anytime. So in here, another tip I always give, and I saw this and I thought it was really good, especially for homies seeking opportunities actively. Have a PDF of an updated CV of yours in hand, which means, for example, in your phone or in the cloud where it's easy for you to access, because you never know when you will speak with someone that says, oh, send me your CV or your LinkedIn and I'll share with someone, right? So be ready when you are actively seeking. And be open to opportunities. So, and to possibilities in here. So we talked, you remember, about assessing your skills, your strengths, what are your goals, and what could be connected with that. So in those possibilities is explore if entry-level remote works. In LinkedIn, you can specifically filter by entry levels. And in here, you can also use associate, because this can also be considered an entry level. And give preference for works that are remote, 100% remote, right? So, and it goes within looking for remote friendly companies, usually also on Google or on searches on the internet, you can find companies that are hiring remotely. They talk about that. Give preference for those because they are most likely to already have a setup to make it smoothly, make it easier, and have a culture for that kind of work, right? But we'll talk about that in the next section as well. And use platforms to hire. Honestly, platforms here, it can depend for where you are applying to. So, for example, we have Upwork, FlexJobs, we work remotely, but there might be some local platforms that you could use. There's one in US, for example. I'm not remembering now, but I know that, for example, Easy is really strong in US, right? While in Brazil, it's not that strong. So try to identify which would be better for you, but overall, try to find those that specifically offers remote work or even freelance, which is one type of contract, right? And this brings us to also the key differences in international labor markets. So working remotely, it's really nice. It gives you more flexibility. It also allows you to work from other places as well, right? So this is the really nice part. On the other hand, it requires you to be organized. It requires you to communicate really well because you won't be seeing your peers. So you need to ensure that you can work together through asynchronous communication sometimes. So what it means that one of the things that you need to consider is different time zones. So sometimes you will either be required to work in the headquarters time zone. Sometimes you can work on your own, but then you need to find a time to connect with your colleagues who are in another time zone. What time that would be, it really depends on the differences. There is also the communication style. So British communicate different from US, from Europe as well. So you gotta know that because it can impact your perception on what the other is saying or how to work better with that person, right? So one thing, and this is even a value of company I work for, is we call it good karma. It's no drama, good karma. It's meaning that we consider that everyone has um, a different background and everyone has good intentions on what they are communicating. And it's very, very helpful into understanding each other. So take that into consideration. There are also norms. So what might be culturally or what might be seen as good in one place might not be as seen as good in the other. So if joining company remotely, try to identify where they are from, what are their culture, how is the work job being organized, what they would expect from you. So you can, of course, ask all of these during the select process, and you should to see if it fits what you are looking for, right? And it also goes within work-life balance. So a very common knowledge that we have, US is usually known for working more hours. This is very common, doing extra hours of work. While in Europe, they really, really appreciate the work-life balance. So they have a different working culture, I would say, that is very noticeable, right? So take that into consideration when looking for what you are looking for. Yeah, so this is one of the points. And one other one is thinking about compensation and benefits. There can be variations across regions for remote work salary, right? So sometimes people see the same company hiring for different locations with different, sometimes it's even the same currency, but it's a different salary. Why? Because it has to do with taxes, it has to do with cost of life in that place. And of course, that for remote, each company will approach it differently. There are some companies that localize it for the place where you are in, and there are some companies that just make a generic approach for it, giving the same independency where you are. So it's good to ask about it and understand what are the taxes that you need to pay over it, right? Because it really, there's a difference between your gross salary and your net salary. So it's nice to have that in mind. And also payment schedule. So will it be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? Because then you need to organize yourself around that way of payment. And there are, of course, also variations in PTO, healthcare, bonuses by region. So you need to ask what they offer, if what they are offering is applicable for your location, how we could use that benefit as well. So I have already worked, this is not my first company working with different offices. And in one of them, we offered one healthcare that wasn't useful for people that were in a different location. And then, of course, that then the company, they had an office in the location, then revisited and changed for a better provider, right? But here, then it's good to take that into consideration and how this company used to work with that. And then talking about some insights for securing global jobs, some things that I have already mentioned during the presentation. So for networking, be genuine, not selfish when reaching out, as I mentioned before. Be really interested to hear about others' journeys because you can actually learn some from it and you can get some insights on what you can do yourself, right, to get through there. And this helps to build a connection. Use AI in your favor. I like to say befriend AI. So tools like ChatGPT, as I mentioned, can help within crafting your LinkedIn profiles, your CVs, and even if to crafting an email or message you like to send. Only thing here is be proactive here. ChatGPT is a tool. It's not just to copy and paste. So review that message, see if it really resonates with yourself, with the way that you speak or the way you like to, the tone of voice you like to use for that, right? So again, it's a tool. You need to personalize it once it provides you with a text or message. And one other thing, it's related with the remote working is digital tools and skills. So to work remotely, what you'll be using for that? Your computer. And much probably a Zoom, for example, like we are doing in here. So you gotta know how to operate it. But there are other providers like Teams, Google Meets, for example. So get acquainted with that and know how it works. As sometimes, even in the interview process, you might be required to use that, right? There are also messaging. So, for example, Slack, it's a very common corporate communication tool throughout the companies, but there is also Google Messages, and each company you use a different one based on their needs, right? So be aware of that and ensure that you have good tools to work with that as well, like a nice computer with a nice camera, because this would be the way you'll be connecting with your peers. And I didn't add it here, but be organized. This would be really, really important since applying to jobs, following up with that, to presenting yourself, and then doing your work and keeping up with that, right? And that brings us to preparing for global interviews. That is, prepare for it. It looks obvious, but don't wait to come to the moment of the interview to think about what you will answer or what you are going to answer at that specific question. That are some there are some standard questions usually, especially in the first steps of the process. So think about what could be asked, how you could answer, what are the highlights that you have, that which skills they can demonstrate. Research the interviewers as well to know who they are, where they are from, and how to connect. And again, be ready with your digital skills as well, right? So yeah, with all of that, you might be more likely to land actually an international, a remote job with an international company. So yeah, thank you so much for you all. I would love to see if you have any questions and answer them.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalia, for your webinar. That was highly informative. So, yep, let's turn to the Q&A session. Guys, if you have any questions, please text us. Yep. The first question is, what about cover letters?
That's a great point, Fatma. Cover letters, they are not always required, but as your CV, always have a model ready as well for you to share when it asks. And cover letters, they are mandatory, personalized. So you really need to make something intentionally for that company. It also shouldn't be more than one page and not the entirely page. So usually you have your introduction section. And what you want to do in the cover letter is highlight what are the opportunity that you are applying for, what called your attention, and what is from your skill set you believe could be a good fit for that position, right? So in that way, it's almost like, what can I add in here that is not highlighted, or I don't have the opportunity to share so much like in my CV, and could be a great opportunity to showcase in there, right? So keep it friendly, keep it objective. Of course, tone of voice will really depend on the companies that you are applying for, if it's too formal or more informal. And usually you send it attached to the CV. And an additional information here, really important, is always send your CV in PDF format. So this is a good practice to do, and also avoid from anyone who gets your CV to edit it, seeing it right on Word. So hope it answers your question.
May I here also add a question? So, working at Hyatt Valley, once we were recruiting for a marketing position, we've met such a cover letter that was saying in the introductory part, there was a guy who was comparing himself with a camel. Like, so there is also a strategy to place a hook, right? So recruiter
Yes,
will read this cover letter and somehow to intrigue you, the recruiter.
yeah,
And the guy was comparing him with camel, saying, "I'm like a camel." Because camel, like, they can endure high pressures, high
mm,
temperatures, and he was saying like, I can stand burning deadlines and like lack of resources like camel, saying so I'll be a great fit for your company. And that was actually the great hook I was reading.
yes.
But how do you think? Is it really a good thing to add such hooks, or it's better to keep maybe formal and straightforward?
Again, it will really depend on the industry you are applying for, the company you are applying for, and the type of job. So, for example, if you are applying for a big corporation, a bank, for example, that is formal, right? You definitely wouldn't want to go to that side, especially if you're applying for business. Um, I won't say that it wouldn't work, but you are taking a very a high risk in here.
Mhm.
But for example, marketing, he could explore that, right? Because marketing requires creativity, and it is more open for this kind of approach. So what I would say is, understand what you are applying for. For like the more secure approach would always be a little bit more friendly, formal, not even formal, I would say professional. If you say
Mhm.
friendly professional, it's already not too serious, but also not too on the informal side, right? But if you are confident enough that it could be used, I mean, yes, well, why not? So this
Yeah.
is what I'll say. So it really goes within you understanding what you are applying for and where.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. That was really interesting case. The next question is, what are the best questions to ask at the end of the interviews?
This is a really great question, actually. I like that. Best questions to ask in the end of the interview. It really depends on what you want to know about. So, first thing they say is, if you have the opportunity, it's really welcome and a really good practice for you to make one or two questions, right? You just want to be mindful that they are relevant as well. So, questions like, what that person likes the most, or who is interviewing you likes the most, to of working in that place. So it also gives you an idea. You can notice by the way the person speaks, the tone of voice, and how they hesitate, how truth they are being about that, but also having a little bit more of a perspective on how it's working there, right? From an employee point of view. You can also ask, what are the main challenges in the current team, and what are their plans, for example, what their priorities, let's say, for the next quarter or for the next year. So it really gives you an idea of what they are facing, how the team is structured right now, what you should be handling when you join. And you can also ask what they are looking for in the person that will sit in that position. Sometimes they do mention that during the call, the interview, but it's always nice for you to understand, okay, what exactly would make someone successful in that position. So it can help you prepare and understanding how your skill set fits with that and shows your interest as well.
Okay, thank you so much. The second question is, the next question, sorry, is that should people include some personal information in terms of traits into the CV, or maybe hobbies? Sometimes people include hobbies, interests, and their personal traits. So should people do this or no?
Again, it really depends first on what are the informations that you should be adding to your CV, right? For example, if you already have many years of experience in the market, you probably have a higher volume of information that are relevant for what you are seeking. That it's good for that, and maybe not even have the space to add that. So I would say it wouldn't be a priority, right? But in other hand, if you like to show a little bit of your personality as well, you can add hobbies that you have interest in, and try to think like how it could maybe connect with what you do right now, right? So for example, I do have a hobby that is embroidery. I like doing embroidery. I learned it by myself, and I even sold some. But honestly, related to other skills that I have and what I'm pursuing, I don't see how that would be relevant. But if I wanted, if I was starting, let's say, an entry level, I could add that I love embroidery and I learned to knit myself. And I even sold some of these for colleagues, because this will show some proactivity, some ability to learn, you know. So it's really on how you tell that story and how you add that into what you are trying to sell. So, I mean, and there is honestly kind of some different opinions about that. But if I need to suggest, is if you have the room for it, add one or two that you think could be relevant for your storytelling and for what you like to showcase, and use the tone of voice as well to set how you like to be seen, right? Because tone of voice speaks a lot about how formal or not a person is, or how is their approach to something. So usually those traits, as you mentioned, personality traits, can also be added as soft skills, right? That goes with things like easy to work with, team player, and this kind of things. But try to make it I start telling out of it, and not just using buzzwords, if that makes sense.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We have some interesting cases here. The first case is from student perspective. If the students are questioned if it's possible to find job for uni students. As an example, here, Nurbolot is searching for assistant positions or maybe starting positions for already 2 months, and it gives so hard. So, and usually certain positions, they require certain level of experience, and it's not so easy to find the job for entry positions. So
Yeah.
what can we do here?
Yeah, that can be challenging. I remember when I was in college, I also had this challenge. So you need to think, first thing, think on your current setup in terms of how many hours would you be able to work, would it be half time, full time, which kind of commitment you can make in terms of full contract or half full-time employer, right? Or only a contract or a project or something like this. And in that case, what I would try to do is either trying to find projects, you know, that are looking for temporary people, or either trying to find for internships. So being the uni, it's good because of that. You can sometimes enroll in some internships. So maybe start from there. And then this will give you some experience to then you can be seen and considered for some other roles, right? So in that case, honestly, I mean, it's case by case. So I don't want to give a final answer here because it needs to be evaluated on what it's the challenges that you are facing. Like it's either getting an interview or being approved into interviews, or you don't find a job. So I don't know, as I don't know your case. What I would say is see all of this, right? What you're applying for, and try to leverage your network connection. So this job, for example, that I got as first job uh, as an executive project assistant for these consultants, which honestly, I even didn't know how big he was in my city. He was the father of my best friend. So he was something I knew since I was a teenager, actually. And he was needing someone to be his assistant. And I immediately volunteered. So I said, hey, I'm here. And then he was like, yeah, sure, this should work. We agree on the way of working. And I only stopped working with him when I saw another opportunity. And honestly, how I joined the market, I love telling that story because it was not an usual way, right? So I first um, was a freelancer for a company, a big tech company I wanted to join in my city, but I was a freelancer because they have too much workload and needed someone to support. And then I was working with them full half time and with the consultor for half time as well. At some point, they said that they would need someone on full time and then might need to hire another freelance. But I saw this as a great opportunity for me to learn on the area that I wanted to work on. So what I did, I had to take the decision of leaving the work with the consultants, and I told them I'll work full time with you, freelance. I didn't even have perspective to being hired, and they told me that, look, we don't know if you will be able to hire. This is only for a few months, and I thought, okay, there's no problem because the what I will learn here will give me the skill sets to pursue jobs that I really want, right? So this is what I mentioned about having clear goals and understanding what will connect you with the right opportunity. So it was a big leap for me because honestly, I'm not a very big risk taker, but I knew it was the best decision at the time. And in the end, I was hired. So in the end, I received an offer to join them on a full time as an employee, right? So I stayed with the company with almost 4 years. So yeah, try to look on that. Try to open up your opportunities and possibilities because sometimes there's something that can help you leverage that. So yeah, that would be my my orientation, I would say.
Oh, thank you so much. That was amazing. Um, the the next question is like, I guess, desperate message, I would call it, because let me read it. Let me read it. Firstly, thank you for your presentation. I don't fully understand what recruiters expect and how they decide who moves to the next stage in 30 minutes interview. And I'm interviewing for 7 senior analyst roles in European companies. Usually the first 15 minutes are spent talking about the role and the company. What should I demonstrate in those 15 minutes besides experience and skills? For relocation, you need to convince them that you are 10 times better than the rest, but how, actually? So, yeah, thank you.
That's a fair question. And honestly, it's so nice seeing you because I'm on the other side, right? I'm the recruiter that does the 30 minutes call and I need to decide who moves forward. And to be honest, I mean, it's not the ideal world for us as well. Sometimes I struggle because I think it's such a short time for you to get to fully know someone and get the grasp if this would be the right person, right? So, as I mentioned in the beginning, and the one thing that I would say now and work from there is you have only one time to make a first impression, right? And to work from there. So what I mentioned about the self-assessment, the self-knowledge. So maybe give a step back and tailor and see how you can talk about your journey in a way that connects with what the role is requiring. And I'll be honest with you, even when I'm interviewing, being the interviewee, I get nervous. And if I don't prepare beforehand, I can just forget the answer in my head, not because I don't know, but because I get nervous. And it happened with me once with a big opportunity that I wanted, right? I don't need to say that, of course, I didn't move forward. Um, so what I did after that, I prepared. Um, and this came from a self-knowledge. Okay, I might blank if I don't prepare beforehand. So let me do this exercise. Let me revisit everything that I done. So what I would tell you is before the interview, look, search for the company, research the company. Of course, not entirely, like you don't need to go deep, but at least what is important in the job career post, what they value, what they are looking for in that specific role, what are the keywords, what are the skills, and everything that they ask. Then put it aside with your self-assessment and try to match, okay, what from my skills can connect into that? You found it? Now think about how you can tell that, because how you tell that makes a huge difference. So honestly, I know we want all the time to tell all of our amazing stories, right? But sometimes you just need 1 and a few minutes to, as Amal mentioned before, to get the hook. So maybe work on that storytelling and sharing what is really valuable for that moment. So for example, when the recruiter gives you the opportunity to present yourself, don't extend yourself too much. So 2 minutes. This was actually an advice that I took from an entrepreneur when I was training to interview internationally, and he was from US, I guess, and he had interviewed many people. I mean, he was CEO of companies and everything, and he told me, you need to use 2 minutes, not more than that. Like it's up to 2 minutes to do a brief introduction. You don't need to keep telling about who you're married with or how many dogs you have, right? This is really nice if you can pass by this. So just give a touch of personality in here, but try to be focused and in a personal way on what could be relevant for them to know and let them ask the questions. So you share what you think would be more relevant in those 2 minutes, and then you can open up to them like, and I would love to dive more into what you like to know more and share more details. So yeah, this is usually how you work on that, and don't give up. I know how is this process. I've been through this process, but it's really about honing your skills and work on your skills to sell yourself.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
hope this is helpful.
So inspirational. Thank you so much. Let's have maybe 2 more questions, and
Okay.
so we have several questions, and one of the most frequent question is how to react and what to say on a question when the recruiter is asking for your salary expectations and like what salary you would like to have. So how to negotiate the salary in this case in order not to put the low setting or being too high, so they will refuse you, reject.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it's funny because I was just seeing a video from another recruiter today talking exactly about that. So first thing I would say, again, do your research and try to identify what is the average salary for the position you are applying for in that region or in different regions in your region. Of course, then you need to adapt to your reality here. And you can use Glassdoor for that. They usually share jobs by industry, salaries by industry or by profiles of work. And then when you are asked with that, you can ask back, like, what is the salary range? Like, I'm happy to share that, but I would like to understand first, where is the salary range that you have for that position, right? And of course, they can say that's the range, and you can then say how it sits within your expectation, if it's close, if it's far. Or you can, instead of sharing a value, like specific one, you share a range as well on what you are expecting, right? You can use, if you're interviewing with other companies, you can say, I'm interviewing with companies that are offering from this range to that range, and I'll expect something in between or higher than that. You can say that it's also the minimum that you are considering, because I understand that we don't want to be not considered because of that sometimes, but there is always a minimum, right, that you would consider. And I feel that salary sometimes is a big issue. I come from Brazil. There it's almost a taboo to speak about salary, and we don't know how to speak about it. So I guess first thing is try to change a little bit how you deal with that, because there's no problem, right, into asking for that value. But just know what would be the minimum that would be worth it for you. And you can always say, look, I'm considering starting from this amount, but I'm flexible and I'm open to hear what you have to offer, especially considering total compensation. Because sometimes there is salary, but there is also bonuses, there's also voucher meals, and all of these kinds of perks, right? So you need to take that into consideration. So next time, go with confidence to say what you are asking. I recall that when I was going from my first company to the company I worked before here, I asked for, I guess, 70% more of what I had, because of course my salary was outdated as well at the time. And I think I got it. I think I asked actually like 6% and even got a little bit more, right? Because I was lowballing myself. So don't be afraid. I said at least what was the minimum. So don't be afraid to go for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really great advice. And let's have the last question. So the question is, like, what job positions do you suggest for beginners, uni graduates who haven't decided what to do after their graduation but want to try themselves in an international market? And we also have a lot of requests, such as I'm working for, let's say, accounting position for 12 years and I want to change the sphere. I want to change my position, try something new, but I'm afraid and I don't know what to start with because, for example, IT is too difficult. Some positions are too simple and overloaded with applicants. So maybe two or three positions or spheres that you would like to suggest for our audience.
Yeah, that's a great point. So starting with what job positions do you suggest for beginners who haven't decided what to do, right, after their graduation? I can really relate to that because I've been through it myself. And I'll go back to no problem. You don't need to know what you will be doing for the rest of your life as well, because you might change it a few times during your working life. But understand what are kinds of activities that you like to do at least, or that you have skills, right, to do. And then start seeking again for opportunities that could be connected with that, or for opportunities that if it's not still like the final opportunity you'll be seeking, it's something that can help you skill yourself or can help you in the path to achieve your final goal, right? So as I mentioned, the executive project assistant role that I got, honestly, it was not immediately what I thought for myself that I'll be doing when I left college, but it was something that gave me opportunity with flexibility to keep studying and pursuing other opportunities. It gave me a salary as well. That was something that I wanted, so I could pay for my stuff and other things that I wanted. And with that, I could develop some skills into management, time management, stakeholder management, presentations that I could be using later somehow, right? So one thing that you can try is maybe freelance jobs, even if they are only temporary. See if there's anything. There's always something that we know how to do. You know where to start, right? So create some opportunities for yourself. Put yourself out there, considering knowledge and skills that you have. Don't be afraid to do that. And usually, of course, it's jobs like assistants. Um, I think I don't want to say here because I think it really depends on where you are and what are the possibilities where you are, right? But try to explore that this entry, and again, leverage your network and see if someone is needing some assistance, and maybe even volunteer yourself, even if at the beginning you are not being paid, but you will be getting some experience from that, and that would help you build the skills that you need maybe for getting another opportunities. So that's what I would do. Actually, that's kind of what I did and what I usually suggest. And this is, you mentioned the international market, right? So there is one thing in the international market, sorry, it's customer support. So there are many companies that hire for customer support because it's like an entry level. And they usually hire people by their soft skills, right? Their ability to solve problems, their ability to communicate. And usually it's a great possibility for you to enter the company and grow from there, sometimes in the same company, or just to acquire that international experience. And then you can leverage that later as well if other opportunity comes. So yeah, I've seen many people doing that transition. And regarding the other point, that is more of a career shift, right? After a career transition, um, you got to be very mindful on career transitions, on what you like to try while you are leaving your current one, to make it clear for you what are the type of environments and skills or abilities that you like to use in your daily work, right? Do you want to be more creative? Do you want to be more autonomous? Do you want to work with software engineers, something very specific? And what are the traits that we are willing to work to do um, in that transition, right? Because sometimes you have to start from scratch. Of course, it really depends to where you want to transition to. Some roles, it's more easier to you, your background, your soft skills, that could place you in a similar level to what you are right now in your current path. But sometimes you need to give one step back, because you might have the soft skills, but you don't have the technical knowledge. And although you can learn, it might take longer for you to learn that, right? So try to seek opportunities that give you this possibility of you working with something that you want where you want, but also that you can learn. That's what I would usually say, right? And be flexible to and mindful about what opportunities will help you to leverage that in your favor as well. It's really case by case, but again, don't lowball yourself. I already told friends. I had a friend who actually not a friend. He was one of my mentees, and she had never worked in a formal market. She had done some projects during her college years, but she had been graduated for like 3-4 years already and not actually in the formal labor market. And she was really feeling lost in terms of, but I don't have any skills, I don't have any background. And I started exploring with her. No, you do have a background, you do have these skills, right? So what do you want to do? What do you think you could do? And she placed a job as in a account manager. I don't recall right now what specific one. I say she was really happy. She stayed in the company until she became a mom, and all based on her soft skills and past projects, right? So try to see how you can connect your current experience with what you're aiming for, but be clear about what are the trade-offs that you are willing to do as well. Hope it answers the questions.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, thank you so much. That was a really great webinar. I guess I would on my experience, I would call it the most productive one that we ever had. Thank you so much, Natalia. That was amazing. I believe all of our participants got the crucial, important insights that will help them to upgrade their career levels and help on their career path. And dear audience, dear guests, thank you as well for participating. And I will also mention here that Natalia is our career mentor at Hired Valley in our main product career mentorship. So guys, if you need career mentorship or assistance in breaking through the career challenges and coming on the next level, stepping on the new positions, high positions. So please feel free to contact us and we're happy to help you.